Hey, join us this September at React Native EU 2023, the top React Native event, fueled by technology and driven by community.
Meet your open source heroes, build relationships, and simply have fun in Wrocław.
Tickets are still available on the conference website, so get yours now. Hey everyone, hello, and welcome in the React Native Show podcast by Callstack from our Wrocław offices in Podcast Studio. Today with me, I have my two colleagues from Callstack, which are Mateusz Ulańczyk, who is our quality assurance team leader. Hello, Mateusz. How are you?
Hey, Łukasz. I'm good. And you?
I am good. Yes. Because I'm sitting with you all today and we have such an amazing topic. I want to get into it. After I introduce my second guest, which is Szymon Rybczak, who is our open source expert.
Yeah. So hello, my name is Szymon. And I'm very happy to be here with you guys today.
So, two guests, one from open source, one from quality assurance, meaning we're talking about tests in React Native. And you guys, as a representative of the team, created such an amazing tool, such a new functionality in core React Native that we have to talk about it. We have to promote it. We have to let people know what it is. So, what it is.
Okay. Mateusz?
It's new approach to testing in the React Native core, and it's unique, it's fun, and it's really, really helping the people and everyone involved in this open source project.
Okay.
Yeah. So speaking high level, we added end-to-end tests to RNTester. If you're not familiar with RNTester is an internal showcase app inside the React Native repository that the release crew or contributors checks the changes. This app contains all components that comes with React Native. And what we did is we added end-to-end tests. And maybe let's talk about why we did it.
Okay, we added because right now, maybe I start with that point. Okay, right now, the testing flow is looking like that. Everyone involved in the testing the release version of application need to do everything manually. They need to build the application, click it through, and so on. And we want to automatize that flow, and we introduce the end-to-end automation testing framework.
So, as a contributor, I make a change to React Native repository. It's influenced some components, so I need to check those components in tester application if they work correctly, if they don't break anything. And previously, I had to do that manually through some manual scenarios. Mm-hmm. Right now, what you've added is automation of this step.
Yes, exactly.
Great. So maybe let's talk about the testing very high level, where the tests that you've proposed, that you've implemented, lay in the broad testing spectrum, from unit test through integration to end-to-end. What we already have in React Native and what this whole spectrum looks like.
Szymon, do you want to start from the unit?
Yeah. So until we added those tests and those end-to-end tests, the release crew and contributors were testing the React Native in few ways. First, there was an internal testing by Meta. Because if you don't know, there are actually two React Natives. There is one React Native that lives on a GitHub that is open source, and it is one that lives inside a Meta that Meta use internally. They're very similar, but there are difference in some aspects. And Meta was testing, I don't know, every PR or every release, but they were testing that internally. We had also the unit tests that are running on every every PR, every commit. And also Meta is using the React Native in their product. So they are testing it very rarely, and they are updating the React Native in the products, and they see if something breaks or not. But that's the space for improvements.
Yeah, exactly.
So, how does this local testing by release crew works?
So when it comes to the release crew take the changes to, I don't know. Right now we have React Native 0.72.4, and there are some hot fixes, some big commits, and the release crew have to build all RNTester app in 4 configuration, in new architecture, old architecture, and in Hermes and in JavaScript core. That takes a lot of time. And after they build this app, they are clicking manually. And as we all know, we are only the humans and we are doing the mistakes. And also, they are testing RNTester, but they are also testing new created app from React Native. And that's a lot. So this is 2 apps. In sum up, it's 8 configuration. That takes a lot of times. And we are actually not quite sure if the release crew didn't make any mistakes.
Also, I can imagine that adding one small change in one of the components might not result in a bug catchable in the manual tests.
Exactly.
Like there are a lot of edge cases with stuff like text input, all of that, components that have a myriad of props, right?
Mhm.
And those can break in unexpected scenarios. So I guess there was maybe there still is a room for improvement to write as many of those scenarios as possible and let the machine do their job.
Yes, exactly. And there is one more thing. When you find a bug in one of these dimensions, then you need to retest everything.
Mhm.
Like every dimension needs to be retested. You know, if you spend 7 hours for testing the all dimensions, you need to do it again.
Mhm.
And with the automation, you just start the job and you have it right now.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe let's talk about the process of actually figuring out how to approach planning for this end-to-end tester app. Discussions there. When did it all start?
So maybe I will start. So we, as Callstack, we are the partners of React Native, and we meet very often with the core team and other partners, and we are discussing the ideas, what can we improve to make React Native better. And on the one of the meetings, there was the idea that we should improve the process of testing. Like manual testing is not ideal. There, historically, when we look at the releases, there were bugs that came because of release crew didn't saw it on when testing, and that was the idea. And one of the solutions for that is introducing end-to-end tests. And that was in November last year. And yeah, we as Callstack involved in that process to initialize end-to-end tests in RNTester. And yeah, this is how it started.
Unfortunately, we have a great quality assurance team here at Callstack.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And from this November, the last year, we start kick-offing our project. We start all like the phases. We choose the tool with collaboration with the Meta and the Microsoft guys, and then we start implementing it. And right now we merge it, and it's live. Then it's take a lot of time when you see the November the last year, and
Yep, it is. Maybe now is the right time to mention some of those people to thank them from both Microsoft, Meta, from Callstack as well? Who was involved?
Yeah, so I will start with huge shout outs to the core team. So the Lorenzo, the Ricardo and Nicola from core team. They were collaborating with us. They were suggesting the changes. They were reviewing this gigantic PR with introducing the end-to-end tests, and of course to the big shout out to the one and only Michał Pioszchała, that is our head of technology, and that was his idea to collaborate with between Callstack and core team.
And from QA team, we start with the kickoff with our the core team from our side also, with the Mateusz, Michalet, and Adrian Orszulik. We start with collaboration with the 6 of us. We start making the tool and everything, and then when we are go with the more amount of the work, we take our open source experts Shymon and the another automation QA from our QA team, Ella, and we start making it live. It takes sometimes in the group of the people who actually implement everything, write the codes and test it. And it's a lot of people, but
yeah, and I guess it's a fun thing to work with, to find such an occupied area in React Native Core, in open source, in big open source project that you can really plan and invest time. This is not creation of another prop to a component like text input. This is just going into an occupied area and occupy it, right? And to start doing things from scratch. That's why it takes a lot of time, a lot of planning. And I guess it's live now. So the initial goals of this were to create an end-to-end testing solution for RNTester app so that the issues can be flagged earlier and maybe at all. Maybe they weren't flagged previously and now there are. What can you already see from this tool that is already running on the pipelines? Are you satisfied with the results?
Yes. Right now we finished the first phase. It was implementing the framework itself. We have only one component test on the both platform, Android and iOS right now, and everything is working on Circle CI. And this was the goal from the first phase. We have framework. We start writing the more tests. Sorry, guys, to cover the whole application and also to improve our deciding tool if application is good or not.
Mm-hmm. So how much, and this will be a very flaky question, sorry for that from the beginning, but how much do you think you can test with it, like the surface area of the whole React Native? How much of that internals can you really test with such an application? Because this is an external application that actually tests. This is testing the usage of the components, right? So how much of the internal surface can you test with such application? So that's one part of the question. And the second part of the question is, how far along are you on this spectrum of testing?
Okay, so maybe Mateusz, the first part, I will tackle the second one.
Okay. We can mostly everything critical, I say. We can test the critical paths, the positive and the negatives also. It's tricky because, like you said, this is the React Native Tester app is only to show the components. And when you use React Native in your application, then you also need to test it, because when you use the component, maybe you've wrapped it something and you need also test it again. But we are sure that the component, in isolated environment, are working correctly.
Mm-hmm.
the next phase of the testing should be in your application. You need to test it again because I don't know. You use some like the communication. Maybe you wrap it with something. Then, like I said, components are working good in the environment that React Native provided to you, like to the company who is use it. We will sure that it will not break your application, not make the crashes or application, something like that. It will be works like
as
business
expected.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. But you cannot like provide guarantee that some very complicated usage of like combining few different components like this is basically not something that you can foresee and automate, because it will be a huge waste of time probably to create I don't know, 80% of the tests that tests only like 1% of the actual expected
because
usage.
when you close to the edge cases, you spend a lot of more time that the whole positive paths.
Yeah. So that's the first part of the question. So the first one was, let me remind myself, how much can you realistically test through this? And you said all the what? All the
critical
paths
and negative paths.
Oh yeah. So the second part of the question, how far along are you with testing all of the critical, positive and negative paths?
Yeah, so as Mateusz said, we have finished the initial phase of introducing end-to-end test to RNTester. So we have working setup that we will talk about later. We have working setup inside React Native repository. The tests are running on every commit, on every PR, but we do not have tests. We do not have actual tests written. We have only one for, I don't know, like button component or something, but we are working on that. We have one person working full-time on writing actual tests, and we will have an umbrella issue to write actual tests. And that's huge info for those who would like to contribute to React Native repository. And yeah, stay tuned. We'll inform you on the Twitter, on the GitHub that it's happening, and you can improve the React Native.
Oh yeah, we need this like poster with this US guy. Yeah. So like, okay, so we have one. It's gonna be funny when we release this episode to see how much we wrote since the recording of this deal. But yeah, as of now, as of today, while recording this, we have one test, and we're gonna create an umbrella issue. Everyone can contribute. We will be contributing definitely our QA team.
Mm-hmm.
So, Szymon, you mentioned something that I want to like lean into now, which is the tech stack, right? How does it? We talked about what it is, how it works, like high level. So let's talk how it works low level. What kind of technologies do we use? What are the workflows, stuff like that? Walk me through that.
Okay, sure. So first I will start that we create a separate package because the React Native is the monorepo. So for end-to-end test, we introduced new package, RNTester end-to-end, and it's already on main. And there live the setup, there lives the actual tests. And if we are talking about tech stack, we chose Appium and WebDriver as a tech stack. Later, we'll talk why we didn't choose other technologies, but for our use case, that was the best. And maybe now I will describe what is actually our use case, because this is a very unique use case because of a few things. Like for first, the test must be run with just runner. Why? Because that was the kind of request from Meta because they are using just internally. So on the open source side, we also need the jest. The second thing is that this must be the black box testing. So no changes in RNTester code, just writing test and clicking through the app and checking. The third thing that we also will talk about later is the support for device farms. So we have plans for introducing device farms. Right now, everything is run on the emulators and simulators, but soon we'll add the support for device farms, so the test will be run on the actual devices. And the last thing that we need to take into account is that those tests must be easy to extend to out of 3 platforms. So as you know, there is such things like React Native Windows, there is such thing like React Native macOS, maybe there will be React Native Vision OS, who knows?
Mhm.
And yeah, this must be really simple to extend those tests to be run on other platforms.
Okay, so Mateusz, maybe if I can ask you to briefly, at a high level, explain the Appium and WebDriverIO.
Okay. Appium is the server that communicated your code with the application.
Like testing code.
Like the testing code.
Yeah.
Simply click in the application, make the swap. This is what this was. Very simple. You can write the test in the Appium itself, but we choose to use the WebDriverIO because it provides a lot of methods and the functions that make the writing the code easier, and it's also provide you like the possibility to adding the reporter there and like the other tools that make your the whole testing process better and more visible. And this is like that. You write the test in the using the WebDriver. We write it in the JavaScript. Then this code is through the Appium is communicated with the application itself, and it's working like that.
Okay.
And one more thing about what Szymon said about the black box. In black box methodology and approach, you write one test, and from the test perspective, it doesn't matter what do you have in the application. It's the same test for the old application, new application, JavaScript core, Hermes, everything from the testing perspective is the same application. You do not need to change anything in the code.
Yeah.
You just provide the application that's on each the test must be executed. This is the black box.
Okay.
Yeah, and this allows us to reuse those tests across all configurations. As I said before, there are 8 configurations when we sum up, and we can reuse the one test that we wrote.
Yeah, you write one test, and you have all like the scenarios covered
for all configurations.
Okay, so walk me through that workflow. Actually, you mentioned this already. Like something is running on the CI. So
yeah,
from my contribution to not test, but to actual React Native core to text input. How does it go from there?
Okay, so right now we are running the tests on every commit, on every PR. You can also run the test locally. We will show the demo later how to do it. But yeah, the tests are run on the every commit, and basically we build the app, and we are starting the emulators or simulators, and we are running the tests on this new build up with the changes that contributor did. So on every commit, the contributor can see if he or she broke the setup, and yeah, that's basically it. As I said before, we will extend that in future to device farms, but that's the plans.
Okay. So it all seems nice. Like I'm on board. I'm gonna start using this. Like this is already in usage, so I don't have to start anything. But like, yeah, it works. What's the darker side of this? What are the drawbacks of your approach? What will you say?
Okay, like every automation need to need to be maintained. Okay, with the manual testing, you take the application and you will see that the button is like the move to the left or something like that. From automation point of view, you need to change it. Then every change in the application, visual change it, must to be like the maintain. Then the first like the counts is like the maintaining the application, the
So
testing.
when the test fails, you have to make a decision if it failed because you made a mistake or if it failed because you changed your code.
Yes, exactly. And in the the Scrum approach to the making the application, you need also cover the time in the testing. Like you make the test like the executing automation test, and also in each feature you need to maintain your framework because without that you are blind.
Okay, so to that, I want to like circle back to something unmentioned previously. So we mentioned we want everyone to contribute to the test.
Exactly.
Who's gonna check those PRs? Like I understand the workflow right now in repositories. We have maintainers that like will go through your PR, approve the change, merge the change. Who's gonna do that for tests? Mateusz, is it you?
Yes, currently we are doing it, and there is no like the changing it in the next future.
Okay.
Then we will checking it, maintain it, and so far, like the Shimon said, maybe when the umbrella issue will go live, then we somehow approach different to that. But currently we are doing it, and we will do it.
Okay.
Yeah, and we will probably have the support from the core team. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned. Okay, before we jump into I was going to talk about alternatives, but maybe let's switch a little bit. Maybe let's talk about the plans for this. What are the next steps that you want to take? You want to create an umbrella issue. You want to take external contributions. What else?
So device farms that I mentioned, and we are planning to introduce other parts of testing. So we would like to add the screenshot testing. That's we are doing a research right now. What are we able to do with screenshot testing in RNTester? But yeah, that's the one of the idea. And do we have any other plans? Then
we want to introduce also testing on your real devices without the device farm, because right now when you execute the test, you test it on the simulator and the emulator. Like the next options you have is starting the real device that you have connected to your computer, and whichever Android or iOS, just the real devices. And the next, like the option is using the device farm. It's the same like the real devices, but you have like the the list of the hundreds of them.
Okay, and those are actual devices, right? Those are not simulators of the devices.
They are real devices in the some server room.
I guess this is pretty important to have access to all of the devices that are out there among your customer base. I remember from my experience, like weird bugs on some Samsung. Not to point I'm Samsung, but like I just remember those
really
times.
And it's something like that. You have the Android and the iOS platform, and the back is like the platform specific. Maybe your like the Android application do not have this bug because it's like the Android related. And also, like you said, could be like you have 5 different Android devices and the 4 of them are working correctly
and one is breaking. I remember a talk from React Native EU 2 or 3 editions ago when someone from Meta, so I'm sorry, I don't remember who, was talking about road to new architecture and how they have 1,000 surfaces and they're enabling new architecture for each of them one at a time. And that sometimes things will break and they will break only on some particular model of some particular device. And then they would spend weeks and weeks trying to pin it out. So yeah, this is really important. It's really important to have that. Simulators only are good for the first step, right? For, like you said, critical paths.
Mhm.
But for more detailed testing, we need real devices. Yeah, last subject that I want to touch on with you, and the last subject is alternatives to this tech stack. So right now, if you want to contribute to this, you need to wait for an umbrella issue and for approve from Mateusz on your PR. But you also need to know Appium and WebDriverIO.
Yeah.
Why can't I just use Detox or Maestro?
Okay, so
Or can I?
You could. Maybe I will speak about the detox first. We want to cover like the all devices and also the real one. And currently, detox do not support the physical iOS devices, the iPhones, iPads, and so on.
Mhm.
Then we need to use the simulator, and like we speak before, there could be bugs. We cannot like the blind one spot and say, okay, everything is good, which out we tested on the real devices. Okay, because customer used the real devices, and this was like the the showstopper to use that. And also, detox do not support the device farms. Then we need to have the devices on our desk, and everyone who tested need to have the devices. And this was like the the showstopper for the detox. Do you want to talk about the Maestro?
I can. The Maestro. A lot of people ask me about Maestro when I tweeted about that we introduced the end-to-end test to RNTester. So first, Maestro doesn't support desktop platforms, and that is the thing that was totally blocking us, because we have plans to potentially we have plans to run tests on React Native Windows or React Native macOS. So that's the one of the blockers. Maestro also doesn't support device farms, and this is the second blocker, because as we said, we will run the test on actual devices, and yeah, the tests are written in YAML, and that's the tricky one, maybe I would say. And those three things blocked us from choosing Maestro, and that's why we chose Appium and WebDriver.
So Appium and WebDriver is just a old, robust solution that just works, and Maestro and Detox are maybe more hippie. Like they have like better user experience, like Maestro definitely, but they are not just as robust as we need
Yes,
this
and
to be.
like the 1 year ago, Maestro was the starting going to the market,
Yeah.
and there was no the methods and the functionality that have right now.
Oh
after
yeah.
like
And
the 2 years on the
of
market.
course, we need to mention that you've started this 9 months ago or 8 months ago. So yeah, definitely. Maestro back then was just a topic on some meetups about this new funny thing, how to test and how
Yeah, but
I get that.
I think it's nice to say that we tested, like we implement the Maestro there, we check it, and we say, okay, maybe
next time.
The 2-3 years, and we'll have it.
Okay, I think this is a nice point to wrap up. I'm gonna recap what we talked about. We have a major improvement to testing in React Native, which is RNTester end-to-end application. Szymon and Mateusz told us how the team went from about creating RNTester end-to-end application. We talked about the tech behind the solution, and you actually explained to me how this actually works low level and high level. And dear listeners, you can contribute to this. You can write your own tests. You can reach out to Mateusz and Szymon to discuss how it all works. So I want to thank you guys for coming to the show, to this beautiful Wrocław podcast studio of ours. I want to thank our listeners for sticking with us on the subject about tests. And I want to thank all the contributors that you mentioned and maybe someone that you didn't mention for helping us get there, to help us get to this stage of this project, and for the contributors that we will meet at React Native EU, that is happening either right after we air this episode, and I want this aired as soon as possible, or right before this episode will be aired. So yeah, thank you everyone. Let us know what you think about the RNTester, and yeah, see you around. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.